Is it working?
Yeah,
it is not. All right. Okay. Hey, I'm Roland from Roland and Julianna Bicycle Tourists, where we share some of our epic and not so epic adventures. You've got to come all the way over here.
Even though I'm not going to be in the video. Hello.
We'll try to get her in at some point, you know. But we do share different bicycle trips around the world, around the country, trying to promote the whole idea of bike touring, trying to get all of y'all to get on a bike and go find out how incredible this kind of traveling really is.
The trail's always changing. It's always something new to look at. It's just beautiful. I tell you people, you got to get out here and do this. You're going to be missing out on a lot of beauty if you don't.
So hopefully, you know, you're a little bit curious about bike touring. That's probably why you're here. And maybe you've done a little bit of cruising around YouTube and finding some interesting ideas out there, and, you know, you're curious. And maybe you're already committed to doing some kind of a bike tour, but, you know, you just want a little bit more information, any kind of tips, whatever, to help you get it going and move it along. Well, in this video, I'm going to break down what it really takes for you to get going, get started on your first tour, and all the things that you really have to kind of think about and that you have to prepare for so that you can make this a really wonderful experience and something that you're going to be hooked on like we are. So I think the first question for me is, you know, why is it such a great idea in the first place? You know, why are we, Julianna and I, so high on this idea? I mean, if you've watched any of our videos, you know the enthusiasm that we have for doing this kind of traveling. It's an incredibly healthy thing to do for your body. You're working out day after day, hour after hour. It's great for the environment. You leave no mark on the environment whatsoever, which is a pretty cool thing. Another thing is that cycling in general just elevates your mood, and bike touring specifically really elevates your mood. I mean, day after day, again, hour after hour, you're spending time in these beautiful places, and you're constantly working your body, and man, nothing could be better for your endorphins than bike touring. It's also a very intimate and very up-close way of traveling. You can really kind of connect with the places, the cultures, the people. Of course, it just connects you with nature. You're out there, you're watching the days change, you know, the seasons change, so you really get a up-close and personal kind of feeling for the nature around you. And it awakens your sense of adventure, which is a really awesome thing, especially as you get to our age. A lot of people seem to kind of lose their sense of adventure. Bicycle touring just opens it up in a fabulous way. So if that all sounds like something that you might be interested in, let's talk about it a little bit and see what you got to do to get started. Where to begin? First off, there's a fair amount of logistics that need to happen before you can really start on your bike tour, at least the way that we do it. And that can be kind of intimidating for people. You know, once you get things in motion, everything really comes together nicely. But there is kind of an art to the planning. I'll share my thoughts as someone who loves the freedom of a bicycle tour, but also really respects and understands the planning that it takes to be able to get that kind of freedom. So here are a few questions to ask yourself. Is it going to be long or short? How long is this tour going to be? How much time do you have? How much time can you get off work? Or how much time are you willing to spend on a bike tour? Another important question to ask yourself is, do you want to ride on trails or do you want to ride on roads? And that comes down to mostly a safety concern. Are you comfortable riding on roads? Or do you just prefer the peace and quiet of a trail? If you're comfortable riding on roads and you want to do a combination, that's good, but that's an important distinction to make right up front. And then where do you want to go? The United States, somewhere here in the US? Do you want to go to Europe? Do you want to go somewhere more exotic? So the question is, what do you want to experience and what do you want to get out of it? And what do your guts tell you? Will you want to go do the wines and the chateaus of France, or the beautiful pastoral landscapes of the United States? Check out the Dutch canals? You want to travel through the rugged West? I mean, what lights your fire? Another important question, what's your fitness level? How many miles do you think you can ride every day? Some people like riding, 50 to 70 miles a day. Other people tend to like something more like 30 to 50. We like going with less distance so that we can spend more time along the way. When you're traveling through Europe or traveling through a lot of the places in the United States, you just want to spend as much time as possible where you are and just really enjoying the location and enjoying the places that you're riding through and just enjoying the journey. I mean, that's really the fun of it, right? Another important criteria is camping or hotels. And if you decide that you do want to go camping, do you want to do wild camping? You want to do primitive camping? Or do you want to do just campground camping, like in RV parks or established campgrounds where there might be showers? It always feels so good after a shower. Here's our campsite in the woods of Illinois. And then there's hotels. You can do inns. You can do Airbnbs. Scored a nice B&B, way too nice for us filthy, smelly, salty Americans, yes. Here's our view looking down over Angers. Some of these are more expensive, some of them can be pretty cheap. But you know, how comfortable are you in some of these cheaper hotels? That's kind of a distinction you need to make as well. So we're staying in the Roadway Inn.
No-tell motel.
It's a no-tell motel.
It's the shabbiest place we've ever been here.
You think it's the shabbiest place?
Yeah, I think it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the...
You know, budget-minded travelers tend to like camping a lot. Obviously, it saves a lot of money. Wild camping's free. Primitive camping can be free too. Campgrounds are a little more expensive, and hotels, obviously, you know, that's getting up there. You know, people who are like retirees who maybe have a little bit more money to spend, a lot of times they prefer hotels or credit card touring, as it's called sometimes. But maybe you just want to spend time out in the great outdoors, waking up in the morning and having the birds singing and looking down on the lake and that kind of thing. That's a really magical feeling. So it really comes down to your personal preference. When we're in Europe, we like staying in the guest houses. It's part of the culture. It's part of meeting the people. And you know, you find yourself in these really nice little towns. So this is the scene, about 30 steps outside of our hotel, right in the centre-ville of Angers. For us, that feels better than staying in a campground. So just decide which suits you, and remember that when you are going camping, you're carrying a lot more weight. You got a stove, you got a sleeping pad, a sleeping bag, you got a tent, so that really adds up. Food is another consideration. What are we doing?
Eaten again.
And a lot of that is going to kind of work around whether you're staying in hotels or camping. Going across the United States, it's sometimes hard to find good restaurants. You know, you'll be lucky to find a Chili's. It's a lot of fast food. It's a lot of convenience stores and getting pizza at convenience stores or getting snacks and that kind of stuff.
This wrap came out of the hot case at the Arco here at the gas station. And the only thing that has any flavor is the wrap, is the tortilla. The bacon somehow and the eggs don't have any flavor.
Not always the best. You know, you can always get stuff at grocery stores. You can easily get stuff for a lunch at any grocery store or any market. If you're staying in hotels, a lot of times you get breakfasts. Not the best breakfast, but you do get breakfast.
Although in European hotels, the breakfasts can be just amazing.
If you're camping, you can just pick stuff up at the grocery store, cook your own food. We had some really great meals that way, and it's a great way to go. And then finally, there's budget. You know, you figure out how many days you want to go or how many days you can go. Figure out where you want to travel. Europe, United States, somewhere close. Figure out how expensive it's going to be for finding accommodations, whether you're going to go camping or hoteling in that area that you're going to be touring in. And just multiply the days you're going to be gone by how much you expect your daily expenses to be. And there you got your budget. Now let's say this is going to be your very first bike tour. And you figure, I'm going to spend 14 days. I got 14 days to spend. You want to travel as much as possible on off-road routes, on trails, or you can do a little bit of road riding, but you want to kind of focus on trails. You're going to do a mix of camping and hotels, so you know you're going to need to bring some camping stuff. You feel comfortable riding an average of about 30 miles a day, and you want to stay here in the United States. You're going to do a mix of making your own meals and eating at restaurants. Everything checks out with your budget, and after you do a bit of research on places, you decide on the Ohio to Erie Trail from Cincinnati to Cleveland. One of many stellar American rail trails that can carry you on a multi-day bike tour across a wide region, maybe 300, 350 miles, something you can do easily in 10 to 14 days. Boom, you've got a plan. Now it's time to prepare. Do you have a bike? Well, you got to get one. Thank you so much, Solen.
Getting my new steed ready. She's a pretty one.
The kind of bike you want is something along the lines of a touring bike. A lot of people say you can use whatever bike you have, and that's fine, but it has to be able to carry your load. So you're probably going to want to look at touring bikes or maybe gravel bikes. You could also look at a hybrid bike. Anything that can carry racks and that can carry weight. Hopefully the bike that you have is in good shape. If you bought it used, make sure you take it down to your local bike shop and have them give it a complete once over. You want to make sure that your brakes are in great working order. You want to make sure that you've got really good tires on there. And make sure that everything is ready to roll. So you don't need to be an expert mechanic, but I would recommend that you at least have the ability to change a flat. Then you need to get some panniers or bike bags. Fill those panniers with clothes and camping gear, first aid kit, all the stuff you're going to need. And check out my packing video right here when you get a chance, and you can get a good sense for what you should bring. Okay, now it's time to prepare our bodies. Not to make too big of a deal out of this, but training is kind of an important thing. You want to get your body ready for the tour. Now, Julianna and I have many times, for whatever reason, we have found ourselves not able to train before we took off on a bike tour. Probably about 30 miles in, and we're both pretty tired. First day. This is our first training day, really. Starting to feel the cramps come into my quads a little bit. Sure sign that I'm not used to what I'm doing. And that was a little scary because we didn't know if our body was going to give out. But we went ahead and went for it, and we essentially trained along the way. Our first week, maybe 2 weeks, were spent kind of taking it easy and listening to our bodies and making sure that we weren't overdoing it. We're both tired, I'll tell you. We can feel the last few days, and this whole kind of acclimating, getting up to speed, has been tough. It's like boot camp, I still really believe in getting some training in there, and so I would really push for that and say, try to get your body up to snuff. Get used to several hours at a time riding on your bike. That saddle is going to be wearing on your butt. Chafing and saddle sores and all those moans and groans are all things you want to take care of before you take off. And build a plan. Work your way up. Start slow and start working your way up to the amount of miles that you want to be riding every day. And don't forget to take a test ride or several test rides on your touring bike fully loaded so that you can kind of get a feel for the weight. It definitely has a different feel once you start loading it up, especially if you have panniers in the front. And also you want to do some hill climbing so that you can get used to what it takes to haul all that weight up the mountain. Finally, something I would add is you want to learn how to spin. It's a habit for a lot of us to mash those pedals and to really grind, go up those hills and use the strength of your legs to get you over the hills. But when you're kind of grinding like that, you're really wasting a lot of energy, and you're also shortening your future for bike touring. You want to go easy on your knees. You want to go easy on your bones. And the best way to do that is to find a higher cadence so that you can take it real easy on your body. It's not easy. It takes some practice, but it will definitely save your knees and save your body, especially as we get older. Stop mashing. So let's see, what else? What else is there left to cover? Oh yeah, you have to overcome your fears. This may be the toughest hurdle to overcome. I mean, there's a lot of fears about bike touring out there. Here's a brief overview of a few of the fears about bicycle touring that people have shared with us along the way. People wonder, isn't this going to be boring? You're spending all day long on a bike. You're just going down a trail. And I have never spent a minute being bored on a bike tour. It's just constantly interesting. It's amazing how many people say, don't you bring a gun? And what about all the bad people out there? I don't know if we've ever met anybody who was anything other than really interesting and fun to talk to. We just never had a bad experience with people. Anything but. I mean, we have found some of the most fascinating personalities and kind-hearted, really helpful, generous people out there, both in the cities and in the country, both in Europe and in the United States. We have never felt threatened. Now, is it true that sometimes people will steal bicycles? You know that's true. So yes, you do keep your eye on your bike. You don't let it go. You make sure if you have to leave it for a couple of minutes, you make sure you put a lock on it. You're not being naive, but people in this world are basically good. A lot of people are like, isn't this like physically, isn't this just really hard on you? Yeah, it is kind of hard on you. It's hard work. You do this day after day, and it's hard work. I have to officially say this is the hardest climb I have ever done. But with this load, it just kicks our butts. But you definitely don't need to be anything close to being an elite athlete to do this. All it takes is a little bit of training, all it takes is a little bit of strength, and off you go. Now everybody has their own health issues and their own personal health journey, but you can do this. Check with your doctor, of course, but you can do this. It's really no harder than riding your bicycle for one day. It's just several days of bicycling strung together. That's all bicycle touring is. How hard is that? Not hard at all. Then people are concerned about bad weather. I think that's a big fear of people is, what if you run into bad weather? I do have a video all about cycling in bad weather, and you can find it right here. But it all comes down to planning. We have the best apps in the world for being able to predict what's going to happen today, at what hour, what's going to happen with the wind, what's going to happen with the rain. Make sure that you got plenty of gear for rain and for wind and that kind of thing. It looks like you're running into a bunch of bad weather. You can stay in a hotel and just avoid the whole thing, or you can ride through it and find that riding in the rain is usually not that bad of a deal. Heat, make sure that you bring plenty of water and don't ride during the hot parts of the day. Get up early. It is, 7 a.m. It's already really hot, so let's go. Wind, you just kind of need to deal with wind.
I hate wind. Oh my God.
I think a lot of people fear the traffic, and that can be a huge fear. It definitely was a problem for Julianna and I when we were crossing the country. We ran into some issues where we had to change our course. It's a really rough day, really narrow shoulders, and cars passing the opposite way so that they just barely miss us. It's incredibly frustrating, and we were only too willing to doing what we had to do to get ourselves safe. But for the most part, if you do a good amount of planning, and again, I've got a video here about how to plan a really good route, you'll be fine. You can also plan your tour around doing just rail trails or off-road trails. If you're interested in riding in Europe, just know that Western Europe is absolutely crisscrossed with off-road trails. You almost never have an issue. And when you do run out of options, just take those back roads. Nice, quiet back roads will get you where you need to go, and we used a lot of them going across the country. The last fear is that this is impossible. Maybe somebody who's ridiculously fit could travel across the country, or travel across a state, or travel by bicycle for a week or 2 weeks or a month or 4 months. Anybody can do this. You can do this. And that's the thing I'd want to leave you with, is that, this is super possible, and all I can say is this is going to be one of the most incredible experiences of your life. So give it a shot. Get out there, or start doing the things you need to do. And one last thing, if you haven't already and you're enjoying this kind of content, make sure and subscribe and, like and share. We'd really appreciate it. Trying to build the channel, Happy trails.